Landlords Podcast.
All right, and we are live. Lord, contact they do here, iLord Podcast, lordsgaming.net, with the amazing devs. Who are these fine ladies in the room today?
I'm Caroline.
And I'm Charis Duzot. I am production director at Interior Nights.
I'm creative director.
All right, so let's talk about As Dusk Falls. Laura's got a chance just to see some behind the scenes action of this amazing game. Very unique narrative art style. For those who don't know in the realm, tell anybody what about As Dusk Falls.
So As Dusk Falls is an interactive story you can play with people you love. It's a compelling, mature story, super approachable. You can play with up to 8 players online, locally, so on your couch with your partner, for example, after the kids are in bed, or your friends at dinner, or maybe your best friend who lives on the other side of the country.
Awesome, awesome. So one thing we noticed right off the bat, so I would say, is this unique narrative, this art style.
Yes.
You know, and the way you capture. Tell to people about, like, what was the inspirations behind that?
So the inspiration behind the art style was really to make an art style that was unique, to really be tailored to this type of storytelling. And we wanted to capture the full emotions, all those nuances that we express as humans. We wanted those to be in the game so that you never break that connection that the player has to all of the characters on screen.
I think it does a really good job at doing that, because when you're playing a game that you're looking at polygons or graphics and things like that, there's always moments where it's not cinematic, whereas there's very mundane things that happen during gameplay, and then you have a cinematic moment that sort of engages you emotionally. Here, you're always engaged emotionally because you're capturing, like you said, the perfect facial expressions, the moment that something happens, and everything sort of crescendos at the same time, whether it be the look on the character's face, the music, the sound effects that are happening. It's all sort of one perfect portrait of every single thing that's happening in the game at every single moment, and that's very cool because gameplay you don't see that very often, right?
I agree. I think for me, what really resonated was, you know, by that art style, I felt it was very expressive in emotion. You capture emotions well. And I wanted to talk about, it looks like As Dusk Falls is going to talk about some deeper subject matters.
Yeah.
You know, so am I right there? Are we going into places where we're going to make players uncomfortable with decisions they may make based on these things?
I wouldn't say uncomfortable,
Okay.
hopefully. But we do broach like mature and sometimes possibly like dark themes. But you know, all of us in our lives have gone through like struggles and difficult moments. So it's to reflect that, but it's also uplifting moments. You know, it's really about the relationships you have with your family and how you grow and change and how you overcome some trauma you might have in the past. So it's really topics that could have happened to any of us. You know, are you gonna stay married with your wife? But also you make big decisions about which hostage is going to be taken out of the motel to safety. So it's that mix of big and smaller decisions, but all have an impact on the character's fate and their state of mind.
So speaking of which, let's talk timeline. Like set place, we're like 1998. Where's this going at a motel? For those who don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the game is set in 1990. It starts in 1998 in Arizona, in the middle of the desert, in a small town called Two Rock, and we spend time in this motel where the hostage situation takes place. But after a few episodes, it expands across multiple states in the US because it becomes like a chase. You follow a character who's trying to escape to Canada. So you will like see a lot of different locations and atmosphere in this. Like it's really a wide scoping story.
And multiple years as well, right?
And multiple years, very good points.
So I heard you mention that earlier, and I said, wow, okay, so this is going to be this truly sort of epic, spanning story.
Yeah,
Exactly, you get to really shape these characters with the decisions that you make and shape their stories and their lives, like you say, over decades. So you see the impact of your choices come out in their future.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So tell us a little bit about the gameplay, right? Because I think from what everyone has seen, you see sort of everything seems cinematic, but they don't really show how the game plays out. And we got to see a little bit of that. So can you explain exactly how the game is played?
it's essentially decision making throughout. So you see a beautiful story happen on screen, and every 20 seconds or so you make a decision. And it's very, very approachable and lean. So you can play with a controller or a mobile app, free mobile app on your phone, and use your phone as a controller. And you simply move a cursor. Everyone has a cursor who plays with you, and you make decisions that it's kind of voting, and the choice that gets the most votes wins.
I think that was the thing that actually excited me about the game, because I remember, obviously, when we first announced the game, we first saw it was in 2020, I would say.
Correct.
We first saw it, like, okay, it looks like a very cool, interesting game, but I'm thinking of it like a traditional Telltale type game, one player, you get into this immersive story. But those are games I like, don't get me wrong. But when it came out of the Xbox showcase, and I heard multiplayer component, I'm like, interesting, how is that going to work? And getting a chance to see it behind the scenes, one thing that really resonated with me was the decision-making process, the break, and then this override thing.
Yeah.
And that is when the override is when the fun in the room really started. So tell us about that override mechanic for those who don't know.
So each of us, like each of the players, have a cursor, so they each essentially have a voice. It's like they're a voice in the character's head, and each of us have different opinions and ideas. So when you feel really strongly about a choice and you don't agree with the majority in the room, in your team, you can override, which is essentially like a takeover of the vote. And everybody's cursors are frozen, but you can move yours and make your decision.
But you do have to be careful, because like I can override your override, and that's what happens,
and
right?
then when your overrides run out, because everybody has a limited amount of overrides. So then what happens at that point?
Well, no one can override anymore. But the cool thing, so we set a limited number of overrides per chapter.
Right.
But if you don't like it, you can go in the settings in the menu and change that amount.
And you can just go back and forth and stalemate all the time if you. Or you don't have that option.
Well, that's not the way you're meant to. You're not meant to like
Right.
give yourself unlimited freedom.
So feel strong.
No, you're gonna make a decision. That's it.
No, that is cool. And again, the reason for me why I was really resonating, I was thinking about obviously you have the hardcore gamer who's gonna love narrative-based choices and these great decisions and these branching paths, right? But then I'm thinking about like someone like my mom, or someone who is not the traditional gamer.
Yeah.
And what's cool, I feel, is the phone component and the xCloud component, because you can get more people involved in these type of decisions. So tell us about that, and even some Twitch integration.
Integration, all kinds of crossplay.
Yes. Like the gameplay is essentially super scalable, because it's like one player, one cursor, one vote. Right, so going on Twitch makes perfect sense. Like the host runs the game, and then the audience votes for different decisions, and it's essentially the same kind of atmosphere as playing the 8 of us in the same room. So it's like really, really scalable game design.
Yeah, very, very scalable. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think your point about your mum could play is really strong, because this is the game that I think my non-gamer friends are going to pick up, and they're going to be happy to play with me, because they have their phone, so it's really simple. They don't even need to have the game in the room with me there.
And like you guys said, like it's very engaging, because it is sort of that amalgam of games, but like prestige television, where you're like a great television show, a Breaking Bad, where you have, you have these characters that are going to grow and evolve, but the thing is, you have agency in that, and that's when it comes to games, that's what it is, the agency you have, even if it's not, I'm pressing a button to slash something or whatever. The fact that you can kind of mold where their life goes in this story is, I think, to me, that's the most powerful thing. And when it comes to this type of game, right? Because traditionally, you look, like I said, we've talked about Heavy Rain, Indigo Prophecy, and you take the story places, but you're kind of controlling the third-person character here.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm looking at the characters, one of the characters, just eyes, and his eyes say everything about the situation that's happening to him, and sometimes you miss that in a game that's, about polygons and stuff like that. So, yeah, this is, I had a great time over there, 20 minutes until we did my
yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing is, like I said, outside of the expressive, way the characters are drawn and things like that, it really showed to me how much writing is necessary for all the branching choices. So what I wanted to ask is, from a development standpoint, how long has Dusk been in development? And then, like, I think about a game like Mass Effect.
Yes.
And you think about, okay, if you do this, then it can branch this way. Or you do, like, how tedious is that? As that must be a challenge as a studio to do that much writing and that much choice branching.
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
So, first question, we've been beginning the development like end of 2017. For me, started like a few years before that, but like with the team, we started so that's 4 years and a half. So, which can be seen as a long time, but it's actually a big game, and it was our first game as a studio, so you got loads to figure out, like the tools,
Set the studio up, we hired a team in, like we created all the development processes and all of that to really support the script and the story, because like that is number one. I'd say that's part of the ethos of the whole studio, telling interactive stories.
So everything started we started with the design, right? Because the way you experience the story is kind of as important as what the story is about. It goes hand in hand, really. But we wrote the story. We got a team of 2 full-time writers. At some point it was 3. And we wrote 1,200 pages of script.
Wow.
But actually, that's more than that, because we iterate so many times. That's the final script is 1,200 pages. But at least we wrote like probably 3 times that. It's like a TV series, writer's room.
Yes.
So we break down the season, like all the 6 chapters by blocks, and then we do outlines and script versions and rewrites and table reads with the team. It's great moments usually when we do that. Everyone engages, it's so much fun. And then user testing, and as you go, and it's a constant. It's not like we do the script and then we make a game.
Right.
We keep iterating as we are making the game, because we test the story. The gameplay is the story, really. So you make sure everything hits right, and that the decision making is like clear for the players, because sometimes you intend something and it doesn't come across the right way. So players could be surprised by a decision they make and they expect something else. So we fine tune that all the way through.
I have to say, you talk about the length of the script and just like how big a challenge that is, even in film and TV world. But then when you're making a game, every word on that script involves hours of dev team work too. So this is a big, big script game.
So when you write the script and then so how is it acted out? Do you have the actors, what they act out and you record? Is that the audio, or is the audio separate and you do that as a booth?
So we do live action shoots, but we don't capture audio on the shoots, because then for the quality of sound, etc. And sometimes we have different actors who do the voice than who do the visual performance. Because maybe Charlie, you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, we want to. Also because the way it's being acted out, it's a branching storyline, right? So it's not just like one linear story that you just sort of capture in one go. So to really do justice to that, it's much better to record the audio afterwards.
Gotcha.
But with the casting of the live performance actors and the voiceover actors, we wanted to keep it really authentic in the way it comes across on the screen. And we wanted to be very authentic in our casting of actually who gets to do that. So we chose people with lived experience of those ethnicities and those ages. So that all really contributes to the whole story being put together and that nuance coming across.
Yeah, I thought that definitely showed. And the 2 things for me that really resonated was the amount of choice. It was like every 20 seconds there was.
There's a choice.
You're engaged. Like there's no sitting back and just watch a story.
Yeah.
And when you think about the different sort of emotions that each choice would sort of branch you off into, you talk about 1,200 pages of script, because there were often, at least a few times, there were sort of comedic, sarcastic choices that hopefully would bring down the tension in the room or something like that. I just think to see that and to see how that sort of affects, and again, it goes back to the expressions on the face of things of that nature. That is so impressive because, again, when you look at it, it's outwardly, it's like this is a pretty simple game. But when you see it in action, in motion, one of the things that's super impressive to me is when you showed us afterwards the branches.
That's what I'm about to say. Yeah.
When we get to the end of the chapter, it shows everybody's sort of virtue rating and sort of based on the actions that they all sort of had during that chapter. So
I was balanced.
I was virtuous. And
I was playing as a very balanced person.
I was a family person.
What was how did you guys come to the idea of doing that as a sort of like kind of everybody taking a moment to reflect on the choices that they made, maybe look at their partner, like, hey man, like.
I mean, like for me again, like it's the reason why we're doing this. I think it just adds an extra interesting layer to this type of experiences, where the game feedbacks to you what the game has learned about you, but it's not like the game is bad robot or anything. It's not like horrible values and stuff. It's all good stuff.
Yeah.
It's all horrible. Yeah. No, you never get that.
I won't get that.
Not being a foxhole with you.
But I mean, it's like, because it's important sometimes we make decisions and stuff, and we never pause and reflect on, or rarely pause and reflect on what's important for us in life. And when you're like, yeah, okay, honor, family, love are like really my core foundational principles. I think it's just so cool to see that, and triggers interesting conversations as well. It's fun, and it's deep.
And I think it triggers them with people who normally wouldn't have those conversations.
Yes.
Because this, in a way, simplifies it. It says, okay, I look at the decision I made, it gives you an ABC choice or whatever. And then, at the end, it's like, okay, you're this, right?
Yeah.
But it's not that simple, but it starts the conversation.
Yeah. And the more you play, the more you discover, like each chapter has a set of values and traits, depending on all the choices, options. So the more you play, the more you build your kind of insight profiles.
Right.
And if you go into the menu afterwards, you can see your top 3 values, your top 3 traits, and your play styles. So you're not like, it's not monolithic. Like the more you play, the more you discover.
Very cool, very cool. I was gonna say, just as a studio now that you're getting closer, and obviously we saw the game back then, we see it now. What did it feel like to be like on the Xbox, but as the showcase, your game showcased again as something that it's coming out and people are generating as a studio? How did that feel?
Do you want to speak? You speak about how you felt. For a second, then I'll speak.
I mean, it's surreal. Like at first, I was like super honored to be on the stage.
Yes.
And it's a great honor. I'm super happy to be able to present the game in our own words. It's quite cool. And it's the rest of all of it is surreal.
Okay, well, we watched the showcase with, we were here like in this Microsoft space, but we also had the team on Zoom.
Okay.
So we had the whole team, they were in the UK, we're in the US, and we invited the actors along who played the characters in the game. And we had our counterparts at Microsoft too, so that was really special for me. It felt like everybody in the same space, like watching this moment together. It's been 4.5 years that we couldn't talk about the release date. We couldn't talk about the multiplayer. We couldn't talk about all these really unique features that we put in there, and now we can.
And how much work was it just to get, the trailer for the show? Because people often talk about how hard it is to get anything ready for just a big presentation like that. And was it kind of in the natural process of your work, or was it something you had to sort of handle aside?
I mean, the game is essentially finished. So we had loads of moments of the game that could be captured and edited for a trailer. So it wasn't this time around. It was a lot of work.
That's so cool.
So obviously, as gamers, hardcore gamers, you always talk about playtime, right? How long we're going to spend in this game. And obviously, as a narrative-based game, people talk about the branching paths. How many different branching paths, how many endings. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like what can we expect in terms of how many times you can play through this and see totally different things?
Yeah. quantify numbers.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's cool, absolutely. We've got 6 chapters. Each chapter is an hour playthrough.
Mhm.
So if you play the game from start to finish, it's going to be 6 hours. But there's many more content and branches, so you can play and replay. In my head, I don't know if it's going to happen like that, I see people playing solo, and then play again with people they love.
Yes.
So that you experience different branches, and the mere fact of playing with different people turns the experience into something else. Like it's a different atmosphere. You gotta have different talking points. So it's very replayable from that point. And in terms of number of endings, it's dozens. I don't know at each character's well because it's quite modular. So each character has their own set of fates. And you have agency on almost all of those. So depending what you do, you can have very different combinations.
I think for me, what makes it really special, and the reason why I would play with different people and still have a unique experience, is because you learn about the people that you're playing with, and you learn about yourself at the same time.
Right.
So like Caroline and I mean, how many times have we played the same chapters together? And there are still huge differences in the choices that we want to
Charles
make.
likes to murder people.
Oh yeah.
You see, I learned that today.
Yes.
She's here.
There was a certain scene.
Sorry, I was like,
No. Gotta
Defending
go,
your
yeah.
family, like defending your family. No, I respect that.
I respect it. So look, we're getting close. Again, I think you guys really have something special. Our style is fantastic. You know, it definitely it's tackling a lot of cool stories, multiple characters. I think it's great that it's multiplayer, right? And then on top of that, we got the XCloud thing, we got the Game Pass thing, so it's so exciting getting a whole group more of people. You know, we're getting close to launch. You know, for the people, what do you want to tell people again as you get close to release, as much as they can about As Dusk Falls?
Well, I would love them to experience a new type of story, very mature, compelling, with people they love. Whether they're gamers or not, everyone can jump in and enjoy As Dusk Falls.
Closing.
I tell you, for a long time, I've been waiting for Ken Levine's next game because he's had this thing about narrative Legos, right?
Yeah.
Creating a narrative that just branches and it goes in all these different directions that it feels very natural. I'm gonna be honest, when I saw this and saw the branching paths at the end specifically, and you tell me you have so many endings, you might have beaten him to the punch. I'm so excited about this game because again, when you see it out, it's a narrative game. It's great. Okay, it can have a great story. Everything we saw today, everything about how you interact with it, the multiplayer, what that creates in a personalized setting, what that can create in an online setting, it makes this so much more exciting.
Absolutely.
So I think you have something very special on your hands.
An absolute pleasure. The developers here, As Dusk Falls. Again, release date for those who don't know.
19th of July.
19th of July. We're getting close.
We're getting close.
We're at over a month.
Yes.
Yes. An absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much.
for the
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
So much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. It was great to play with you.
Awesome to play. That was hilarious. I'll be approved. Be on the lookout. As Dusk Falls. An absolute pleasure.